I suck at Jiu-Jitsu. How do I suck less at Jiu-Jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
The diabolical leader of the headlock squad.
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. Today we are going to cover the most important topic on the show that I've wanted to cover for 300 and however many episodes, and haven't done it because I didn't feel like I could really be helpful in any way to you guys. And I've been working on this episode for that long, and I'm ready to share it with you guys. And I know that this isn't going to hit everybody. I know that some people do not struggle with balance in their life at all. Some people can smoke an occasional cigarette, right? But for most people in their life, that is really not how they are. And it seems as though Jiu-Jitsu attracts some of the people that struggle with being overly obsessed, some of the people that struggle with balance, almost more than any other group. There are some other groups that I'm sure it does, but regardless, there are a lot of Jiu-Jitsu guys that have come on the podcast and have talked about, when I was young, I really just struggled with balance in life. And it's always something that makes my ears perk up. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Tell me, what have you done now that you are much later in life that has changed that and fixed that problem that you've had of being overly obsessed? And they would generally say something like, well, I still struggle with balance now. I've just gotten a little better at it. And or some people, Greg Souders was just on the podcast, and he said something along the lines of, when you look at people at a high level in pretty much anything that's worth being a high level in, they have one thing in common, and that is that they are generally incredibly unbalanced in their life and overly obsessed about one thing. But is that the answer for everybody? And really, if I'm being totally honest with you guys, is that the answer for me? Is why I'm doing this episode, and why I have this information is because this is something that I think about a lot. Understand, I started jiu-jitsu 17 years ago. A few months in, I did my first competition, and I was like, this is all I want to do. This is so much fun. And then, like most people that are a bit obsessive, I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well dedicate my entire life to it. And if I'm going to dedicate my entire life to it, I might as well be the best in the world at it. I might as well be better than everybody else because that matters to me, right? And I think there were times in my life, and I know there were times in my life that I let that mindset, the mindset that I was going to be the best in the world at jiu-jitsu, and people were going to recognize me for that. I let that rule my life, and I let it allow me to make decisions that, looking back on, I wish I wouldn't make, or I would definitely wouldn't make now. And so, as I've gone through life, I am still the same person. I still struggle with being super obsessive about whatever it is in life. And we'll get deeply into all my problems later. We'll just focus on your problems now. But I'm sure that that rings out to other people as like, it's just their job. It can't just be that they have a job that provides for their family. They have to be the best at their job, right? And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just this. We can say competitive, but I don't know if it's always competitive, because sometimes it's this internal competition that keeps you from being able to enjoy anything. Even if you could climb the mountain that you've always talked about, when you get to the top, you just look for what the next mountain could be instead of enjoying the view, right? And now let's go ahead and get started into what I actually have written in my notes. And that is, I don't know why I decided to title this, but balance is BS is the start of this, but the 3 lies of balance. And we are going to try to debunk these 3 lies of balance. They are that 1, balance is a place, 2, obsession is evil, and 3, with balance, you can have it all. There's this magical place that you're going to get to because you're so balanced and everything's going to be perfect. And obviously, I don't buy into any of these, but Jiu-Jitsu is nasty. Your partner stinks, the mats are swampy, and somebody always brings that surprise of mystery rash to open mat. That's why I spray Full Guard from Combat Sports Hygiene. It kills staph, it kills ringworm, and it is good for your skin biome. There is no burn, there's no alcohol, it's just hypochlorous acid. That is the same stuff that your body makes to fight infection. Full Guard just took it and supercharged it. So you can spray it before class, you can spray it after class, spray it mid-roll if your partner smells like expired milk. So just go to sportshygiene.com and use code ISUCK for 10% off your purchase. Be clean, my friends. Let's start with balance is a place. Balance is not, and that's like how we view this. It's like this thing that we will one day have. One day I will be this balanced person. Just note, I'm going to say the word balance a lot. We're not talking about chemical imbalances in your brain. We're talking about balancing in a sense of when people talk about work-life balance, or for a lot of us, jiu-jitsu life balance. Is there any life besides jiu-jitsu for a lot of us that listen to however long this episode's going to be jiu-jitsu shows, right? No, probably not. We're crazy jiu-jitsu people and we love it. And to be honest, that's okay. We're going to figure that out eventually. But the first thing that we got to look at is that balance is not a place, it's a verb, okay? It's an action. It is something that you will constantly be trying to do for the rest of your life. And I was talking to one of my friends, and we were talking about non-jiu-jitsu friend. We're talking about business, and he made this statement. He was just saying, giving like each other pieces of advice that have been helping ourselves. And he said something like, "Yeah, I saw this thing about how Elon Musk runs his businesses, and what his job is considered is he wakes up in the morning and they just have a list of the problems that nobody can solve, and then he just goes through and solves all of these problems." And it hit me like, oh my gosh, in my businesses, that's my job. And I always defined that as this really negative thing. I'm like, oh, I hate doing this. I hate doing this. I hate having to always be solving problems. Like, oh, wait, that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I'm getting paid to do, right? And so on the podcast, that's what we do is we solve your problems. Usually they're problems that I've struggled with forever. And I give you the advice that helps me, right? And so that is what I'm supposed to be doing. And when I accepted that that's what I was supposed to be doing, it made it way easier to balance all of the problems that I had to solve. They just became part of my regular schedule. And so we're going to look at knowing yourself, because that is a huge part of understanding balance. Is how balance is for me is going to be different for you. I'm just using myself as the case study on this, and hopefully that is going to be helpful for you. Now, number 2, the second lie of balance is that obsession is evil. Instead, we got to reframe that. Obsession is a superpower, but it has a shadow. It has a dark side, right? And so, again, if you're still listening to this episode, I think you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm just going to talk to you from here on out like you struggle with balance too, okay? And so I promise I'm worse about it than you, but everything's a competition. I promise I'm worse at this. I swear to you. But we will look at, the superpower of it. I know for me personally, I would not be near as good at jiu-jitsu as I am if I wasn't so obsessed with jiu-jitsu. But it wasn't just the obsession. the obsession with consistency and the obsession with the right habits and surrounding myself with the right people, that is what got me really good. The obsession alone could easily have a dark side, right? If I get so obsessed with winning that I stop treating my training partners well, I stop trying to treat my training partners as well because I want to beat them in the gym, right? If I get so obsessed with winning that I will leave my team, which again, we've talked about a million times on the podcast, not always wrong, but I leave my team only for my personal gain. And I go to a place where I surround myself with other jiu-jitsu athletes that leave their teams only for their own personal gain. And then you expect that to not be the mentality, right? We see this on most of the big teams in the jiu-jitsu space, right? There's a lot of egos involved. Well, yeah, think about the people that gravitate towards that. Those are going to be most likely the me people. And those are the people that treat people negatively. I really think that how you view yourself and your goals are going to be how you treat other people. Okay, so how you view you, how you think about yourself, and how you think about where you want to end up, that is going to dictate how you're willing to treat other people. I think that you could ask yourself, like, do you view people as pawns in your story, as just characters in the story, the hero arc that is you? Do you view your jiu-jitsu teammates that way? Do you view your spouse that way? Do you view your friends that way? Do you view your children that way? These kids are so lucky to have a dad like me. I'm like, no. You got to earn being a good dad, right? And you got to do it every day. You got to be consistent with it. It's not, it's not like that. It's not that they are subservient to you. You are a character in these people's story. And when you treat people like that, it's crazy how many more people want you to be successful and want to help you. And it's crazy how much treating people negatively and having an unbalance in your life, being unbalanced with how your life is being ran, how closely those two things are related. I'm not saying it's always the same, but for myself, it seems to always be like that. For most people that I see, it seems to always be like that. And we will get into that. And I know that you're like, no, I don't view people as pawns. I am such a great person. I am the most humble person in the world. Trust me, I don't do that. But do your actions reflect that? Is the way you treat people, does it reflect that you care about people or you just care about you? And do you think, and this is one that we all will do at times, this is an action. This is not a just do this today and then you're going to be good. No. This is what to strive for in balance. Because this is when balance is bad. When you get so obsessed with something that you start to treat people badly, or you get so obsessed with something that when you start to get good at it, you start to think of yourself as more important than other people, and not than everybody. But if you think of yourself as more important than anybody, that is a bad view. That is not anybody that is in your life, anybody that you're interacting with. I mean, you can think of people that, there's a lot of people that are all around the world that you don't have to think of. I'm just saying for you. If you and the people that you interact with, the people that you care about, if you think of yourself as more important than some of them, that is showing that you have a bad view of yourself. And again, you may argue, but I will prove it to you by the end of this. And so, holy smokes, where am I at? Okay, so the third lie of balance is that with balance, you can have it all. Oprah Winfrey has a quote that says, "You can have it all, you just can't have it all at once." And I think jiu-jitsu has shaped my view of life. And so I know that this is obviously true in jiu-jitsu. You cannot get good at every aspect of jiu-jitsu at once. It is not possible. It takes obsession in the little parts of jiu-jitsu. I'm just going to get good at passing De La Hiva, right? At first, to even get good at passing anything, it's hard to even just start and go, I'm just going to get good at passing all guards, right? We have to break it down in these small pieces. But if we do that and we get really focused on those pieces, usually we can do better. Like, we can grow from that. And so I really think that is, I think Oprah's right. She's probably wrong in other things, but I think she's right in this instance, that you cannot expect to just have this. We always think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but the longing thing as an unbalanced person, the thing I'm always longing for is like, dude, if I just had like the perfect schedule, like the perfect scheduling app. If the app that I had is just like, it just showed me my schedule every day, and then I would know when to train, I would know when to take off because I'm overtraining. Sometimes I injure myself. I would know, I would know everything. I would know when to spend time with my family. I would just be a robot living that schedule. It's just not real, right? And like, I get to dedicate just the perfect amount of time to these 50 different things that I want to do in my life. You can probably focus on like 3 things in your life and care about 3 things in your life. And then they're going to have an order in which you care about them too. But it's very, very, you don't hear many people having a lot of success focusing on a lot of different things. They will, even the people that from the outside perspective, they go, oh, Josh, you have a podcast, you have you have 3 jiu-jitsu schools, you help run a personal training business, you sit on a board of a nonprofit, you are an incredibly handsome guy, your jokes don't always land, but even when they don't land, you just keep rolling with it and you just keep going. You don't even explain that you're joking. A lot of big positives to you. And dang it, where was I going with that? I just started listing off too many things that people have never really said about me, and things that and then the thought always goes back to like, hey, how do you do all these different things? You're also a dad, you're also a husband, you're also a jiu-jitsu competitor. How do you do all of these different things? And the truth is, a lot of times it's not that I do the same thing in a lot of different spaces, right? And so again, this comes from knowing yourself. For me, it's like, what am I good at doing? I am good at seeing people's positives, seeing where people are good, and then trying to help them get in that position or help them take a risk, bet on themselves. I always like to, play with house money, get you guys to put risks on your own life. But that's something I'm very good at, right? Is pointing out people's positives. And obviously I'm good at speaking. I'm good at explaining ideas, right? This is all I do on the podcast when I do solo episodes. And there are a lot of things that I'm good at, but only a few things that I'm like really good at. It's pretty much those 2 things. And that is, and then I guess the third thing would probably be learning. And those are pretty much my 3 jobs in everything, right? Like, even as a dad, I'm trying to learn what my son is doing now. These kids change so much. They don't stay the same. They don't tell you this kind of stuff, guys. It is a battle every day, because you're dealing with this human being that's always doing something new. And so you're always trying to have to learn, well, what is that? What does it mean? Can we help him with this? Is this important? Is this something that we should be focused on? Let me tell you something. Let me go off on a tangent about, I'll just tell you the story. So there's a situation where my wife calls me and she's like, hey, our son's less than 2. Okay. She's like, hey, we were hanging out with this other family. You know, they have a 3-year-old, and their kid is notorious for hitting. But he wasn't hitting Matthew. Matthew's my son. He wasn't hitting Matthew, but he was taking his toys. And he took his toy once, and Matthew's a little mad. And then he took his toy again. And then Matthew punched him in the face. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He doesn't talk yet, but he punched this kid in the face. I'm like, okay, well, it's a one-time thing. Okay, the kid was taking his stuff. It happens, right? Maybe he's the hero in the story. I don't know. But yeah, we should probably address this. So as it goes on, Matthew and I, maybe a month later, are at the bookstore. And we are in the kids section. We're playing with a Jack-in-the-Box. It's a very wholesome moment. He's laughing when the Jack-in-the-Box pops out. Then he'll close it. It's a great thing. There is probably a 5-year-old and his mom standing 15 feet away. Me and Matthew are sitting on the floor. He jumps up in an instant. Before I could grab him, before I even knew what was happening, he runs full sprint. And when he gets to the kid, hits him with a right hook right in the face. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I was freaking out, man. I'm like, that's assault, dude. What are you doing? You can't just punch people. This kid's reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas in September, and you're going to punch him in the face? He's just happy about Christmas. Oh my gosh. I still am not sure in the whole learning and leadership and communication aspect where I fit in on that. We're still working on it. We're working on hitting. Yeah, but I don't know, man. I will say this the other day. This is after the hitting thing. I've never exposed him to any fighting. I don't know if Grandpa, a.k.a. Black Belt Steve McKinney, friend of the show, my dad, been on the podcast many a times. I don't know if Grandpa exposes him to maybe UFC or something when Grandpa's watching him. Who knows? But I know I have not exposed him to any martial arts at all. I was watching on YouTube an old UFC fight. He came in the room and he was like very interested. I actually turned it off because I was like, well, we have a problem with hitting. He better not be watching that. So then I was just recently watching rewatching the Canelo Terrence Crawford fight. And he really was into it. He was liking, I don't know if he's a grappler. I've tried to show him my jiu-jitsu matches. I don't know if he's a grappler, boys. Holy smokes. Most jiu-jitsu gear feels like it was designed by someone who's never trained. And it smells like it was designed by someone who's never showered. That's why I use Datsusara. My gi, my backpack, my fanny pack, they are all made from hemp. It's ridiculously comfortable, it lasts forever, and it doesn't hold on to the stink of regret from last night's no-gi class. Even better, the gi is weirdly hard to grip. It's kind of like you're grappling while covered in butter. Don't ask me how I know what it feels like to grapple in butter. Instead, go to dsgear.com and use promo code ISUCK for 10% off. And you'll stop wearing gear that feels like a sweaty, stinky duffel bag and start wearing the coolest gear in jiu-jitsu. Check them out at dsgear.com. But yeah, let's go into how obsession looks on the mat. I've given you guys a lot of explanations, but I did list some in case I couldn't think of any. And so we'll just go through them. So a good place that obsession looks, or a good example of how obsession looks on the mats is when you are training through an injury that is, for me, when I'm training through an injury that I would tell a student, hey, you shouldn't be training. And I'm pretty laxed with that kind of stuff. I'm pretty much like, do what you want. But there are definitely injuries that I go, hey, your neck is messed up. Your whatever is messed up. You are limping to each round. It doesn't make sense to train right now. It doesn't make sense to at least train live right now. You can do something, just don't do regular hard training, you were going to get hurt. And so being able to see that in myself and just be like, no, I'll be fine. I'll just keep training. I'll just keep doing it. Not a good call. So when I train through injuries, oh, that's what I just said. Oh my gosh, I just read the same thing twice. Guys, I got to really switch to using a computer and stop using a notepad for stuff like I'm living 2002. Here's an easy one that I can give many examples of, but it's when my identity crashes after a loss in jiu-jitsu competition. A lot of people are not actually negatively obsessed about jiu-jitsu. A lot of the people that are going to be listening to this are obsessed about jiu-jitsu competition. Trust me, I get it. I've done this for 17 years. I still can't stop doing it. I have every reason to just not do this anymore, right? I've probably, when it comes to significant wins, you could argue mine are behind me, but I'm still doing it. Who cares? I just enjoy it. I love it. When I get too obsessed, though, with where I'm going to end up and are my significant wins behind me or are they ahead of me? Can I beat this person? Can I beat this person? It stops being fun for me. And so when my identity becomes about winning and not about effort, right? I care to be proud that I am doing everything I can to get better, right? In the morals that I've set for myself. And in the time frames that I've set for myself, because when it comes to things that I can do, jiu-jitsu competition is not at the top. It's not even close anymore in my life, right? And so when you tie your identity into being the guy or the girl, the one that always wins, the one that always dominates their division, the one that always does whatever, when you do that, oh gosh, it's time for a commercial break, but we'll stay in this. But when your identity is just crashing into those, like the fact that you're losing, you don't want to show up to the gym, you're so frustrated, it's usually because you've based your identity in winning. I have watched, especially as you see influencers from other spaces coming into jiu-jitsu and then competing in jiu-jitsu. You can tell the ones that are setting themselves up for failure by what they're posting. If you're seeing a jiu-jitsu influencer constantly telling you about this next tournament, and they're not like a professional jiu-jitsu athlete, telling you about the next tournament they're going to do, and they start to put this pressure, or even a non-influencer, even somebody who you just know that has a kind of popular Facebook or Instagram, but trains at your gym, they start to put this pressure on themselves of, hey, watch me on this mat. And a lot of times it's because they've put in so much obsession with how that they're going to win, right? And you want to win. I am incredibly competitive. If I'm competing, I am only signing up for something because I believe I can win it. It's never, ever, ever am I going to be in a division that I go, well, we'll see today. It's just always, I'm not always right. But when it comes to that, I would say that, you know what? It's time to take a quick commercial break. Have you ever finished a roll and thought, what was I even doing out there? Same. We have all felt that way. And that is why you need Jiu-Jitsu for Imbeciles, a free course from Rob Bernacki that explains Jiu-Jitsu so clearly, it makes you wonder how you ever got confused in the first place. I am telling you, it is like a TED Talk for people who suck at jiu-jitsu. And that is why they're giving it totally free to I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners. So go to bjjmentalmodels.com/ISuck and download it for free right now before you throw away another roll chasing guillotines from bottom side control. And we are back. And now we will look at one other thought on how obsession looks on the mats or off the mats for me when we are just, again, talking about how bad of a person I am, is if I start to treat my family, my wife, my dad, who I work with a ton, if I start to treat them badly, it's generally because I am unbalanced somewhere. I am overly obsessed on something. I am overworked in a way that I shouldn't be. I shouldn't allow myself to get to, because it's when I get injured. It's when I make my worst mistakes. It's when I'm just not myself. And so we're going to talk about how we can start to, we've pretty much just talked about bad stuff this whole time. We're going to talk about how we can start to solve these things in just a second. But I think maybe another way to say it is, maybe you don't treat your family badly, but you are more attentive to jiu-jitsu, or you're more attentive to work, or you're more attentive to your mistress than you are your family. You should be a lot more, you should know your priorities, right? You should know those values in your life, and what is most important. I have a example. So I won't tell too. Okay, so I was talking to a guy, and it was just talking about all kinds of different stuff, and we started talking about prayer and power of prayer, things like that. And I knew this guy was struggling with stuff, and so like, hey, what could I think to pray for you about anything, just in the future, and anything you're dealing with? And he goes, yeah, that I process my second divorce. And you can't say something like that to me. I always want to dig in. It's just who I am, bro. I'm sorry. But I wasn't trying to, dig in on this. And again, I'm not using this person specifically. This person will never listen to the podcast, but I'm just saying this is where we're at. And using this example. And I go, well, tell me why you got a divorce. And he goes, man, I was just too obsessed with work. And I just, and somebody chimed in. There were a few people here. And somebody chimed in and said, well, there were three people. But, yeah, you have to work, right? You have to, provide. And then it's like, you're out of balance. And the guy was so honest. And it's the only reason I'm sharing this. He goes, nah. He goes, even when I was home, I looked at my family like they were keeping me from what I was doing. Like they were keeping me from what I should be doing. And he's like, and it started with, I want to provide this life for my family. And that's how it started. But then it turned into, I want to do this thing. I want to have this greatness. And we're like, dude, that was heavy. And I was like, can I talk about that on my podcast and not say your name? And he was like, you have a podcast? And I said, no. And yeah, so he'll never know. And so, that was just a really easy example for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is what it looks like to not have balance. When you stop, like he said, he started with the goal that he was going to do this for his family. He started with this noble goal, and then it just became this selfish thing. And it really became about doing it for his glory. And so, again, these are all of the examples. Now that we're 30 minutes in, let's look at some ways some actually helpful practices. And so these are just, we're going to have, I didn't want to lie to you. We have 5, what did I call them? 5 balancing hacks. And so the first one is just understanding the idea of guardrails. And this is, I think everything we'll talk about is probably an example of a guardrail, but this is what I'm going to explain is like in jiu-jitsu, if you are somebody who injures yourself a lot, something you can do is you can have a maximum amount of days that you train per week. So maybe it's like 3, maybe it's 4. For me, it is 5, but that is maximum. Okay. And again, this is somebody who injures himself as he has gotten older and just done jiu-jitsu for so long. So old injuries come up a lot. But just somebody who's beat up and gets more beat up. I can't train. I used to train 10 times per week. A completely natural athlete. 10 times per week. When you're young, like young, when you're early 20s, you have superpowers. If you're in your early 20s and you're the only person who's in their early 20s who listens to long form content right now, dude, you have a superpower. Train as much as you can. You'll never get hurt and you'll never regret it. But then when you regret it, it's horrible. But this idea of guardrails goes both ways, though. You also need a minimum amount of time to train, because if you're also like me, you go with, I would rather, if I can't train 10 times a week, I would rather just not train, right? Like, oh man, I missed this. Oh man, my diet, I ate a cupcake at work, and so now my diet's ruined. So now I'm going to eat 7 pints of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, right? That is what being obsessive looks like. That's what my life looks like. But when you have those ideas of minimum days, things that keep you on track, hey, no matter what, 2 days a week I show up to training, because if I get out of the habit of training, then I'm in a ton of trouble, right? And so, and you can, everybody's life's different, and I don't know anyone whose life, throughout the seasons of the years, the holidays, the family events that you have, the school that you have, and then when you don't have school, the jobs that switch, I don't know anyone whose life is consistent, right? And so a lot of us end up like letting our life live us, right? And it's because we're just upset that our life is inconsistent and we want this magical schedule. We want the magical scheduling app, but I just don't think it exists. And simple ideas like some people call it a floating schedule or something like that, but the guardrail of 2 to 4 times a week, I always will train 2 to 4 times a week. And you know why that you will train. You know that it's because it will help you get to the goal that you have in jiu-jitsu, and we'll talk about that later. But we'll talk about that now. I lied to you. Number 2 on the, what I call these, the 5 balancing hacks. I like that. That's good. Number 2 is drive in the right direction. So again, the idea of, I don't know why this episode is just about bashing schedules, but the idea that you're going to have and some people, again, some people can have perfect schedules. This is not who I'm talking to. Okay. So if it's not you, again, that's cool, but this is just not who I'm talking to. I'm talking directly to people that struggle with this. The idea that this perfect schedule, you're going to get it, and then you're going to, I don't know, have millions of dollars, be the best jiu-jitsu person, whatever you plan on doing. But that is the goal, right? Is like, oh, if I just had this perfect schedule. Yes, there is definitely success that is hidden and only unlocked in having good routines, but we'll get there. That's not where you start. You don't start with, okay, what does Josh McKinney's schedule look like? Bro, it's mayhem. You don't want that. It's not going to be helpful for you. Your life, unless you are a podcaster and a jiu-jitsu coach and a jiu-jitsu athlete and all the other things, it doesn't even make sense. Why would you do that, right? You need something that fits you, but it only comes from kind of knowing yourself. And then what we're talking about now is knowing where you want to go, driving in the right direction. And so if you have that thought of like, well, what should I be doing? Then what should be my habits? What should be my routine? I think that there is a superpower hidden in the word why. When you go, why does, I want to run 10 miles every day. I want to run a marathon. Okay, why? Well, because if I ran 10 miles every day, then I could run this marathon and get a good time. Okay, why? Well, because I'll be healthy. Oh, okay, you'll be healthy. Are there other ways that you could be healthy that maybe would be smarter impact-wise on your knees? No offense to you runners. I know I'm talking to a lot of obsessed people. People want to fight me now. But I'm still going to bash what I'm going to bash. But yeah, you have is that the answer? You go, oh no, I want to do this. You see this in the exercise industry a lot. There are a lot of people that sell exercise that is very dangerous. And it's like, there's a very good chance that you get injured. There's an incredibly high injury rate. And when you see that, you go, okay, well, wasn't the end goal to be healthier? If I'm injured and now I can't do anything, does that make it healthier? Nah, really doesn't, right? And so if you're, and especially it's like the same thing people will do. They'll go, oh man, I'm not strong enough for jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to lift 6 days a week and I'm going to only train jiu-jitsu 1 day a week. I'm like, brother, it doesn't matter. You're going to increase your strength maybe by 10% if you're lucky, and you're still going to suck at jiu-jitsu. And so that strength is going to be applied to dumb stuff, right? And so I think that just knowing kind of where you want to go, knowing how to ask yourself why and really dig in with yourself. Like, hey, why is this my goal? There's this thing in the book, Good to Great, called the Stormtrooper effect. And he talks about he and his brother, his older brother, might be his younger brother, but when they're growing up, they see this really cool stormtrooper costume. And it's like authentic. It looks exactly like Star Wars, right? And they have this conversation, and the brother goes, man, that would be the coolest thing, to be rich enough to have a stormtrooper costume. And crap, who wrote that? Jim Collins says, yeah, that would be so awesome. And he's like, and I get to this point in my life where I'm making money. And he's like, and I buy a stormtrooper. And then I look at it and I'm like, you're an adult man and you just bought a stormtrooper costume. What are you doing? And he goes, I had built this up in my head that this was going to be this amazing thing. And then I worked really hard to get there. And then I realized, oh, this was a silly goal. And so understand that you may set a 10-year goal and start to do the right things and start to change as a person. And that 10-year goal starts to change too, right? That direction starts to tweak a little, but you need at least a direction to start in, right? You need a goal to start with. You got to be okay with starting to become, we talk about this on the podcast all the time. You don't get a black belt. You become a black belt. And so that is why it's so silly when we're making these dumb arguments about who deserves their black belt and who doesn't. To be honest, no one can really know. Yeah, you can roll with somebody and beat them, but there are people that have paid a ton of dues and their body is just so broken that you can beat them too. So is that the criteria of what makes a black belt? Did you have to be a good competitor? Do you have to be able to beat everybody, other black belt in the room? It's like, it's silly. I really don't see a point in like obsessing over those things. I see a point in obsessing about some of the black belts that I know are some of the greatest people, the most interesting and the coolest people that I know. And when I was coming up, especially when I was a purple belt and I was really getting to be around just the coolest groups of black belts, I was going, I want to be one of those guys. I don't want to have what they have. I don't care about that. I want to be what they are. When they walk in, I want people to go, man, this person helped me on the mat, no matter what. Didn't care. Just was helpful because I was on the mat with them. Treated me with respect and then obliterated me when we rolled. And that, like the guys that I was looking up to, that's what they would do. No matter who would come into the room, they could defend the room. And that was what I wanted. I was like, I want to be that. And that is what I focused on. And I only got to that point because the original goal was just to be the best black belt in the world, right? Just to be the best guy of jiu-jitsu. But then when I started to actually grasp like, oh, that's what being a real black belt is. It doesn't matter who's got the piece of cloth, but seeing dudes like that, seeing dudes like Kyle Watson, who has been my coach for 17 years. I'm like, oh, that's what a black belt is. That's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be getting better all the time. It's a practice. It's a verb. It's not a place, right? I am a man betrayed by the art that he loves. My name's Josh McKinney, and as most of you know, I've been cursed with the burden of fixing jiu-jitsu. With your help, we're going to heel hook the fake black belts, every single one of them. Those mat bullies that you're dealing with, we're going to pressure tap them. And Reddit BJJ, we're burning it to the ground unless they allow me to post my podcast episodes and quit deleting them. But I can't do this alone. Every like, every comment, every 5-star review, it fuels the mission, it powers the algorithm, and honestly, it keeps me from turning to the dark side and opening a karate school in a strip mall between a CBD store and Spencer's Gifts. So if you believe in better jiu-jitsu, review the podcast, do it for the future, do it for the children, but most importantly, do it so you never have to hear someone say "os" ever again. Let's move on. Oh, it's crazy how these things just keep running into each other. So number 3 on the 5 balancing hacks is to have the right passengers. Just like I said, I've been with Kyle Watson for 17 years. My dad and I have trained jiu-jitsu together for 17 years. You guys have met these guys on the podcast. You know, oh, these are the right guys. And sometimes it's healthy to define that and to say like, oh, that's, what do they have, right? But also not just, especially if you're in the jiu-jitsu space, if you are jiu-jitsu obsessed to a point that you worry that it is going to affect your life negatively, or obsessed with anything to a point that is going to affect your life negatively, have somebody outside of that space that you're close to that you can rely on their counsel outside of the space. I've told you a few stories where I'm talking to people that don't do jiu-jitsu at all. Some people that karate chop in the air still when they say jiu-jitsu. It's good. It's so valuable to have people that don't view me as a black belt and aren't like, oh, Josh, he's the coolest guy because he's a black belt. It's so valuable to have people be like, nah, I've known Josh since he was a fart sniffing little kid and he's still a little fart sniffer, and it's so valuable to have people like that. Like my wife, right? She is one of the best people about calling me out, especially when it comes to the obsessive stuff. When it comes to, because like the podcast is something that I can really, really dedicate my entire life to because it's so much fun for me. That's kind of how mine works. It is very much like enjoyment based. If I have a goal that is fun for me to do, like the podcast stuff, I'm going wild. And so there have been times that I have done. Years ago, I did the 7 days to suck lesson. So I tried to put out 7 times the episodes that I was used to and didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And then like the last few episodes were getting made as the first ones were coming out and they were supposed to all come out in a row, right? And so I would do that again. Now that we're talking about being obsessed, the 7 days to suck less. If you guys are still listening to this episode, you want 7 days to suck less, 7 episodes in a row in 7 days that are kind of like this, that are just deep dives on things and they're all crazy, let me know and I won't tell my wife, but I'll do it. But anyway, last time I did it, she was like, hey, you obviously are about to have a nervous breakdown. You are way too obsessed with this. And I was like, no, but I have to get this stuff done today. I can't go to bed yet. I have to get, and it was like there. And it was one of those like, nah, you need to listen to me. We just need to be done with this for a little bit. And if you can get them done, awesome. If you can't, whatever. And it was just that little break. And that's a very extreme example where it was a specific moment. She gave a specific remedy and then everything was fine, right? Most examples aren't like that. Most examples are, hey, I've noticed that you have not been present when we eat dinner. I noticed that you're not here all the time. I notice that you're not whatever, right? Whatever your people that you care about, that you would give that power to be able to speak in your life, whatever they notice. Because, like, so for me, my best friend he's done jiu-jitsu a little bit, but like, I always joke with people like, yeah, he's been training for 17 years, but he's still a white belt. So like, he's barely done jiu-jitsu, right? And we have been best friends since as long as I've done jiu-jitsu, though. And it's been so valuable to have that outside perspective, to always be like, you know, when the jiu-jitsu space gets weird and you think like, oh man, this is just how it is, having an outside person be like, hey, it's weird to bow to a picture of that guy, you know, just having somebody to say something on the outside. And I think as somebody who's a Christian, I think it's very valuable to have non-Christian friends. That's probably extreme for some of you, but I think that is, and not only, I think it's valuable to have a mix of the different types of non-Christian friends that there may be, right? Of other religions and stuff, because you get so much valuable perspective, and you can also know whenever you get stuck in the, you know, they always use the term echo chamber, right? When you get stuck in the obsessed echo chamber, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys don't understand what the real world is like. I was like that, and probably still very much so am like that, but I do a lot. I understand it a lot better than I did when I was young, right? Because to be really good at something, you tend to have to be overly obsessed, right? And you kind of let things fall by the wayside. But again, we're going to remedy it. So we have the right passengers. And I also think it's really important with the people, you know, really the right person in the passenger seat, the person right next to you, the person riding shotgun is, to me, when I think about like who I am and the people that are in my life, having my wife day to day that will really, you know, probably point out more of my flaws than I'm happy with, but having the trust to go, I know that her plan is to be with me forever. I know that we're going in the same direction. I know that our plan is to raise our son the best way that we can. I know that we're aligned on this. And so I know anything that she is pointing out, unless she's just being mean for no reason, but anything that she is pointing out to me is in hopes that we end up where we want to be, right? In hopes that I can be the person that I've shared with her that I want to be, right? That is, you need that type of trust. If you don't have that type of trust with people, first ask yourself, are there specific people that can trust me that way? And again, back to the power of why. Why not? I can't think of anybody that trusts me that much. Well, why not? Have you never given people reason to trust you that much? No, not one person. You know, and so again, this is back to how we treat people comes from who we are and where we're trying to go. Okay? So now we'll look at, I don't know if I actually finished this, but you got to listen no matter what when you trust somebody like that. I just got to accept it. There are times that my wife will correct something in me and I am furious and I am biting my tongue and I want to say, well, you do. Just got to take responsibility. You got to eat it. I told this story on the podcast recently, but it's worth telling a second time. I went and did a private lesson with Henry Akins. And if you just had audio of the private lesson, you would have been like, oh, this is Josh's first day of jiu-jitsu. And he's stupid. And he's the stupidest person that you've ever met. Like, that is how he had to talk to me because of the disparity in understanding. Josh, why aren't you just doing this? I don't know. I didn't know I was supposed to be doing that. I'll try to do that, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, coach. And again, there's no excuse. You just, and every time you get told something, naturally you're like, well, I've dedicated 17 years to this. I want to be right. but it's so much better to accept being wrong and try to fix it, and to try to just accept that. And that is like the hardest thing to do. It hurts every time, and it never won't hurt, because you'll always go, oh, finally, I've done it. Now I am the perfected form of myself. And then you're not. And then somebody points out like, hey, you're the worst. And you're like, oh, crap, you're right. I hate that you're right. So number 4 is all these analogies are in the 5 balancing hacks, obviously are car related. Number 4 is that we pre-plan stops on this 10-year journey, right? So we have small goals to hit. It's not just like one day I'm going to be the best, and then you don't do anything that is required to be the best, right? And so for a lot of us, it's like the jiu-jitsu scene is pretty much like you can do local tournaments, then you can do like national tournaments, and then you can do like international tournaments, right? And that's kind of like the size of it. And obviously you can be very specific to your division, but that's usually the tiers for every division of how good you're getting, right? And if you're trying to be the best IBJJF guy, it would be crazy to not be doing a lot of IBJJF tournaments, even if they're not the worlds. You want to get in the rule set. You want to have pre-planned stops that you go, hey, this is where I can check to see where I'm at. This is to see if everything's good. Because if I can't win in these local level tournaments, how am I going to win at the worlds when I'm facing these guys and the guys that beat these guys? I need to make some tweaks, but you only get that ability to test, again, if we're humble enough to accept the criticism, but if we're out there testing stuff, right? And so if the goal is to be the best at your job, it's really important to have metrics that can check that, right? It's really important to check those metrics consistently. If your goal is to have the biggest jiu-jitsu podcast, it is important to have goals, to have metrics that you're going, hey, 10 years from now, this is where we want to be, but we can't just say that for 10 years and not see any increase. We got to be seeing little incremental things. And when we're not seeing those incremental things that should lead to the 10-year goal, we got to make a move. We got to tweak course. We got to do something. And so we got to get Bryce on the podcast to say crazy offensive stuff that we can cut up into shorts. Let's go to number 5. In the balancing hacks, and the most important is, as Harry Styles said, just keep driving. You have to go and go and go. Whatever you're trying to get to do, if it's relevant, you keep going. Again, we talked about that you may tweak, you may change course. You may have that 2 to 5 training session rule and start to get to a point where you go, man, this is a great rule for me to be able to train jiu-jitsu for a long time. And maybe that's more important right now for me than winning certain tournaments. Maybe getting to train jiu-jitsu forever and just keep getting better at it is more important. And when you ask yourself these things, you're able to tweak and change your direction, but you only get that opportunity if you gave yourself the chance of like, I'm going to make these tweaks and then change my, I know that the end goal is now different. Now I need to make some tweaks to how I'm living, right? And so, but you can only get there if you had a base of being consistent, right? Again, 10 years from now is irrelevant if you do the exact same stuff that you're doing right now. Unless you're incredibly motivated and doing everything perfectly, then not. Keep doing what you're doing for 10 years. But if you're not, if you're struggling with that, having that 10-year plan and breaking it down into your small steps is so important. And so you see this, and this is just a random note at the end of the 5 hacks, is that people that struggle with this also struggle with enjoying anything. A lot of times people that struggle with this are very, very, very driven people and can get awesome things done. But the problem is, like we said, they get to the top of the mountain and they just can't sit for a second and enjoy it. And I notice it in myself so badly that all of the biggest wins that I've gotten in jiu-jitsu just went right to the next tournament and like, oh yeah, now let's just see what we can win that's bigger. Well, let's see what we can win that's bigger. And it's an awesome mentality, and it's a great growth mindset. But when you win something, sometimes it's nice to just sit for a second and enjoy it. When you do something well, it's nice, especially when you have the right people around you, when you have the right family, when you have the right jiu-jitsu team. Sometimes it's nice to just be locked away with the team training in the winter and not competing because it's such a fun environment and you can all be getting better. Sometimes it's nice to be locked away with the family in the winter because nothing happens during the winter in the Midwest because it's too freaking cold. And you get to have that time. There are just going to be seasons of life. And if we're always so driven that we can't enjoy that, there are times that we're not traveling, that there are times that we're not making big deals, that there are times that we're not winning big tournaments, and accept those less busy times for what they are and enjoy them, I think is a really simple way to enjoy your life a lot more. And it's much easier to be balanced when you are just enjoying your day to day. And it's not about where you're going to end up. I know I'm starting with that goal, but it's not this obsession of it only matters if I get there. It only matters if I get there. No, if you're liking how you're getting there, then you're enjoying the journey, right? So now let's finish with what are the next 3 steps to suck less at balance for you and for me. The next 3 steps first is and these are, obviously I've given you a ton of information. Now we're just going to look at actionable steps. I'm going to try to do this more. I like the last 3 steps to suck less at whatever it is instead of just hitting you with, see you guys. First is to know yourself. So are there any signs that you are starting to get out of balance? Do you notice it in yourself? Is it that you're not sleeping, right? Can you usually start to go, oh, wow, I am not able to function when I'm not sleeping. And I don't sleep when I start to get so overly obsessed about this because for whatever reason, my brain can't shut off. My body can't shut off. And so maybe having practices that sleep specifically that will help you fall asleep even in those times, because a lot of these are like correlated. Our decisions start to get worse as we get more tired, but then we keep getting more tired because we're making stupid decisions. We're having to do more. We're having to put out more effort. And so that can be this battle. But again, this only comes from knowing yourself. And I wish that I could tell you a practice that isn't dangerous. This is the only thing on this episode that I think you should tread lightly with, and you probably shouldn't do it all. But if you really want to know yourself, and this is aggressive advice, if you really want to know yourself, ask the people closest to you and tell them you will not be angry. And don't be angry. You can't respond to anything. You accept everything, but ask them, when I start to struggle with being out of balance, what do you notice? What do you see? And it's going to hurt your soul. They are going to stab you in the heart. You shouldn't do this. Trust me. I'm not humble enough to do it. I did it and then I learned and I'm like, I'm never doing this again. This is the worst thing. I wish that you guys were actually beating me up physically so I could fight back. This is horrible. And so, yeah, if you really want to know yourself, ask your friends. Ask your friends, hey, am I a good friend? If I'm not, what could I be doing better as a friend? What am I doing? Do I ever hurt you as a friend? Ask your significant other this. Ask your kids this. Ask your parents this. Ask your coach this. Ask people, hey, what do you see in me when I have negative things that happen in my life and I feel like they're always woe is me? What do you see that's me doing them? When am I the one that's like sticking the stick in the bike spokes and then blaming other people, right? And so, yeah, then again, the rule just to there's this episode of Modern Family where I know I was just going to hit you with these last bits, I'm sorry, but there's this episode of Modern Family where Cam, who is like the most over dramatic person in the world, is in an argument, and he's saying something along the lines of like, well, if anybody else feels this way, he's in an argument with his sister. And he's like, if anybody else feels this way about how she's saying that everyone has to tiptoe around my feelings and all this stuff, go ahead and tell me. And then like one person in the family chimes in, and then they all start chiming in like one after another, and he can't handle it. It is really hard to accept when people say things about you that are not positive directly to you, but that is when it's valuable. It sucks when people say things behind your back about you, right? Because it's not really that valuable. They're just that sucks, right? You're just not likable. But if they like you enough to say it to you, it sucks worse. And so the last note on that is, if you're going to ask people, you be humble and sit down. Keep your mouth shut. You just accept it. And then you work on it. Okay. So number 2 is that you define who you would rather be. If you are looking at who you are, it's not about, I know we talked about the 10-year plan and like this goal, but it really is, who is that person that's 10 years from now? That's who I care about, right? And that is that same idea of becoming a black belt. I don't want to get a black belt. You can buy a black belt. It's easy. You can buy one on Amazon for $20. Some people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars more for them. But it doesn't matter. You can't buy being a black belt. No matter how cool or powerful or wealthy someone is around me, I never feel uncomfortable. I never feel like, oh man, I shouldn't be around this person. This person's just so much better than me, because I know I have this thing that money can't buy, and it is that I am a jiu-jitsu black belt. It's not that I have one. And so, I think that you define in the long term, who do I want to be? And I think it's an easy way to know that is think about people in your life that are your heroes, and then say, what characteristics do they have? What is it that they have that I admire? And then you go back to why. Perfect one is, I've given this example a few times. My coach, Kyle. Kyle literally is one of the best learners I've ever met. And he practices learning all the time. He's always putting himself in positions and around people to learn from them. He asks a million questions. He asks great questions. And when I see that, I go, man, I really want that. And then I go, why? And then I go, well, because I see where it's put him in his life. The dude came from a smaller town than Granite City, came from a less, in Granite City, we would call Raymond, Illinois, the Sticks. And in any other city, you guys would call Granite City the Sticks. And so, he's out in the middle of nowhere, and he was a semifinalist on The Ultimate Fighter. He fought in the UFC. He has this amazing jiu-jitsu business. He has an amazing family. And I see that and I go, man, it's that like humility and always just trying to be better, always trying to learn more. I want that. I want to be like that. And it gives you some things to try to aspire to be, but then you can also ask yourself like, hey, what does he do that I'm not doing? Oh, he is going to the best seminars, or any seminar. He's always asking questions. Am I not asking questions? Right? And so with every person that you're that you see those cool characteristics that you go, I want that. Well, you can break it down. You can ask yourself, hey, well, what is it that I even want? Why do I want that? What do they do that gives them that? What do I see that shows me that they have that, whatever that is? Now we'll go with the last point. Oh my gosh, I still wrote other stuff. I lied. Is number 3, understand what word is that? understand the meaning. That's funny. Understand the meaning of trade-offs. So if you want to do the things that we're saying, if you have this place you want to be and this person you want to become, I think it is so important to understand that there are going to be trade-offs. That means that you are going to have to not be the person that your current lifestyle is going to be, right? What I mean by that is, so if I want to be that jiu-jitsu competitor that I want to be, I have to look at the fact that I am going to be trading other things. If I actually want to get there and I'm actually going to get there, I have to trade other things. My actions are going to have to show that. And so that might be that my training has to increase. That might be that even though I don't love studying jiu-jitsu, that I need to be studying the rule sets that I'm in and the strategies that people use in these rule sets and how people play in my own division. And I need to be studying that way. And maybe it means that, well, if I do that, let me ask you this, what isn't there time for? If I'm focused on that, I can't be scrolling on TikTok. I can't be on the gram all day. I got to make a trade-off there, right? And so that's a really simple trade-off. That's one that a lot of us would, if you knew that, like, man, if I replaced that time of where I just naturally go to my phone and scroll, and you do it all the time throughout your day, if I replace that screen time with a screen time that helped me get to where I want to be, I would be better off. If I replaced the music that I listen to, even though I love this music that I listen to on my way to work, if I replaced it with episodes of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, I would probably have a better appreciation for bad dad jokes. You know, like, you always are going to get trade-offs, and they're going to put you in certain places. And so ask yourself, what are these things that you're doing that are useless? Not only that are useless, that are actually keeping you from being the person that you want to be. And again, who are we talking to in this episode? Me. I'm talking to myself, right? This is the conversation that I'm still having with myself, and I'm still battling, because it is a fight to not just accept who you are. It is a fight to go, no, that I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be and who I should be. And so what can I do? And that doesn't mean I don't appreciate who I am. You know, you can still very much appreciate who you are. You just don't have to. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Let's go to the next thing. So, I already said that. But no, I guess I didn't. So we talked about number one and number two is that there is knowing, you need to know yourself, and you need to define who you are and who you would rather be. If going from one to two, like going from the person that you know that you are right now to the person that you plan on being 10 years from now, it is going to take a lot of trade-offs in your life. Because if you have those two lists, if you're really being honest with yourself, you're probably not at the level that you want to be in whatever you're focused on. And so you go, well, where am I wasting time, right? Where am I wasting time at my job? Where am I wasting time at jiu-jitsu where I could be more efficient? Where am I not getting family time when I should be? Or where am I wasting time with my family? These guys are freaking losers and they're all white belts, you know? Whatever you decide to do. But again, how you think of yourself, how you expect to get to the end, you know, what goal you set for yourself, it really will dictate how you treat everybody around you. And to me, I think that it is so easy for people to see in our culture about how important it is to have. It is important to have this and to have a following and to have influence and to have money and to have power and to have gold medals and to have all of these things. It's important to have these things. To me, I think when I've reframed it to be, it's not important to have those things. What's important is the journey, the hard work, the dedication that it takes to to get those things, right? The person that you have to become to attain those things. That's what really matters. And, obviously this is all just my opinion and a bunch of random quotes that I've strung together, but I'll leave you with one more. I was on the old Instagram wasting time the other day, and somebody made a thing, somebody shared a meme, and it said, what if it's not about the journey? What if it's not about the goal? What if it's not even about the journey? What if it's just about the people? What if it's just about the relationships? And I think that it is. I really think that as human beings, it's so obvious that jiu-jitsu isn't just jiu-jitsu by itself. The real sale of jiu-jitsu, the real fun part of jiu-jitsu is the fact that you're part of a jiu-jitsu community, and these people care about you and they care about your progression. And that is just in our DNA. That is just something that humans absolutely crave. And I think if you crave that, how you treat people is going to define what your community looks like. If you treat people badly, you will have a terrible community, even if you do end up at that goal. We see people that have unbelievable jiu-jitsu accolades, but when you really look at the people that they surround themselves with, they all seem fake. It seems like that fake crew has all melted together, right? And, and I think there's a ton of examples of this, but we won't get into these. We'll leave you guys with that. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys subscribe to the show. I hope you guys like this podcast. Give me a comment. Give me something. Let me know you enjoyed it. But most importantly, I hope that today's episode gets you unbalanced, crazy human beings, of which I am the worst of. I hope it gets us all to suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.